Good morning, ma'am, and thank you so much for another session, another video, another audio file that we would like to bring on. The only thing that always, as we close the last session on cyberbully, we did mention that cyberbully becomes a bully after he finishes his initial work, which is cyberstalking. Now, can we just understand what exactly does stalking mean on a legal definition as well as in parlance to a common man's definition?
Good morning, Revati, and it's good to be back on Cyber Mondays. And okay, now let's talk about stalking in a per se in a physical world. Stalking is when you are pursuing a person in the physical domain without the permission of that person, and the intention is not really a good one. Same goes for in the cyber domain. When you start looking around for all the social media posts, or you are looking around for a person's activities on social media posts, on social media per se, all social medias, as many as you can go through, with the intention of trying to understand the either the activities of a person or the personality of a person. This is without the explicit permission of the person, and the person feels sort of stressed out because of this. So, but stalking is punishable by law in the physical domain, and it is definitely punishable by law even in the cyber domain.
So, when I talk about cyber stalking in the physical world, the key difference that I see is the person has to be in and around the vicinity of the places his victim goes around. But in cyber world, that is purely missing. I mean, I could be in any part of the world in anywhere to wanting to know about you. There are circumstances such as I can lock my profile, I can, not explicitly put my email addresses for access information. But can we can't avoid that as well. I mean, if we want to buy something, we are supposed to give an email address, which kind of comes back to us in a manner whatsoever. So, how different and how difficult is that in terms of a cyber stalking activity that happens in the cyberspace?
In the first place, for the cyber stalker, it's easier. He or she can assume a lot of identities out of which you wouldn't really be able to figure out which one is stalking you on which platform, or which one is stalking you at what point of time. I can assume 10 identities on Facebook, and out of those 10 identities, I can keep looking at you at different points of time. You wouldn't know that the same person is stalking you. So that is the advantage that the cyber stalker has, which he does not have in the physical space. As in, unless and until I can get a gang of people who want to all stalk you and motivate them to go behind you, it's practically not possible in the physical space. But the cyber space allows you that. Now, when it comes to the victim, the problem with the victim is in physical space, as soon as you're into your, say, home, which is a very sanctified place for you, at least there you are safe. In the cyberspace, you're not safe anywhere. Your stalking goes everywhere with you. It is a 24/7 phenomena which you cannot many a time stop, as I said, because you're not really very sure which identity is stalking you.
So, given the difficulty of identifying whether I am in the cyberspace, if I'm stalked or not, what are the key 4 5 things that I can think of? Or if we can think of saying that, okay, these are the trigger points and this is where I can identify that I'm being stalked. How do we identify that?
Identifying stalking, if you find that a certain set of identities are continuously either commenting or looking at your, I believe all of us can figure out whether somebody has looked at our post. Hopefully we are We are well versed enough with the social media platforms that we can figure out whether we are being stalked. And so if you find that a certain, if not one, maybe a certain set of personalities are continuously monitoring whatever you're doing, then it's an indication. It might not be exactly, it might be people who are just interested in you. As in, if I'm doing some sort of work, if there is some space where I am, in which I am, people might want to know what sort of work I do, to try and gather whether they should approach me or not. But it's, in a sense, at least it gives you an indication that people are interested in you. Now, whether that translates into something more is the next step.
Correct. So when I talk about the translation aspects of where I understand that I'm being cyberstalked, to how badly does it replicate on to the victim, or what are the after effects? Like I figure out that I'm being cyberstalked. What happens to me basis of this activity?
The first thing that it will do is create stress, anxiety. Obviously, I mean, nobody wants to be, the feeling itself is a little scary. And if it is continuous and if it's spraying on you all the time, then it is more than just a little scary. It is very scary. Now, that stress, anxiety, to what levels does it go? How often does it affect you? How well equipped are you to handle this sort of a situation? Well, that depends from person to person, but it definitely creates a lot of anxiety and stress for you.
So, as part of the government norms that I look at, in the NIH's final report, they do call saying that the amount of victims who are identified to be cyber stalked or cyber bullied have a very bad effects in terms of getting into depression, trying to get into the suicidal aspects of it, and that kind of torpedoes. uh, how do we identify certain trigger points wherein we say, okay, this is where we need to have an help, or this is where another person can create the red flag saying that this is a cyber victim. Where do I flag it off? Because the ratios are pretty bad, and we are still not even aware that this is happening in India. Or is that how we look at it?
Yeah. Too much of stalking or too much of pressure is likely to, in a sense, create enough anxiety, uh, leading to probably, maybe, sometimes directly, suicidal thoughts, as in, I don't want to be in this space. Or the cyber stalking can further go on into something like cyberbullying or sextortion or uh, grooming, which again is probably the next level, as in one step ahead, which is probably the purpose of cyber stalking. Because why would you stalk a person? Why do you want to know everything about a person unless and until you want to take it forward to the next level? Simply looking at a person's activities does not make much sense. So that looking at is the first step of trying to figure out what sort of a personality or a persona or a psychological impact your activities are going to have on the victim. It's a study of the victim. So the perpetrator is basically trying to study the victim. Now, this will definitely go to the next level. Hopefully, the victim is not too affected by the first level to go into suicidal thoughts. People are affected. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but it definitely causes enough stress and anxiety that the moment it goes to the next level, the chances of suicidal thoughts or of the anxiety stress going much beyond controllable levels is going to be definitely higher.
So when you talk about stalking that moves into cyberbullying and sextortion, uh, when I understand that particular ratio, or when I understand it, uh, one thing that I kind of see as a common factor between the victim as well as the perpetrator would be I'm trying to position myself or being seen in the world for a reason. And yes, that's going to have an anti-repel effect against it because of multiple reasons. Now, as a cyber stalker, do they stop with only looking into the profile, or do they engage in having a certain limit of harassmental behavior, commenting in an abusive manner, or obscene, sharing obscene content, or being obsessed in terms of technically trained? When I'm talking about the profile, are they technically qualified to get into hacking or ethical hacking, or do they come with a sort of a background which can help them or augment them for their stalking activities?
Technically, no. Why do you have to be technologically very smart or very well adapted to stalk a person? All that you need to know is, this is the, as I said, the basics. You need to know how to create 8 to 10 profiles, which is something that is very easy to do these days. And you need to know how to use those profiles in a manner that it doesn't become very evident that it's the same profile or the same person behind all those profiles. Next level, as in when you start grooming, even at the level of grooming or bullying, or at the level of when it comes down to sextortion, yes, we go to the next level. Because as long as it is limited to these areas, you don't need any technical knowledge. Now, when it comes to sextortion, then you're going to a little different level. Technical, as in not really technical, but you need to know how to pick up the money and not leave a trail. That's the only technicality that is required. But if we see the amount of financial frauds that are taking place in this country, I think they're all originating out of places which are very small, where one would not expect too much of technological understanding of how it happens, except that you know how to manipulate the system.
Correct. And that brings back me to one of the primary aspect is uh, a lot of awareness has been created, not just in India, outside India as well. Be it cyber stalking, a lot of countries which are much advanced in technology, much advanced in terms of their current aspects, go through a difficult churn of having cyber bullies, cyber stalkers, using technology for their own malicious intent. How are we placed against those world today? Are we anywhere in a counteractive mechanism, or we are still at the nascent stage? If that is, what do we do next?
When it comes to awareness, we are really pretty bad at it. I'm really very sorry to say this. We do not take it very seriously. Two, we do not know where to go to. Even if we know there is a victimization, we actually don't know where to go and voice our concerns. And then there it stops. If I either do not have no awareness that this sort of a thing happens, one, or otherwise, even if I figure out that this sort of a thing has happened, somebody is being sextorted, or somebody is being bullied, or there is some sort of a mischief being played around, do I know how to address it? So if I don't know how to address it, then once again, I'm in the same space where I am stuck. Now, when it comes to countries like the US or the UK, what I see is even in the European countries, I see it even in Australia. There's a group, there's a e-safety commissioner appointed, who actually takes cognizance, brings in awareness, makes policies, makes the government aware, and there is a lot of work that is going on in the not just the CSAM part, as well as the awareness part and sextortion part. What we do need to do, probably I would advocate that we need to make this awareness program mandatory and compulsory in schools, just as now we've started doing something like good touch, bad touch. We came to that pretty late. And I don't think cyber is one space where we can afford to be late, because this is a fast evolving place.
Correct.
Children who are barely 2 or 3 or 4 year old are already using their parents' mobiles with a lot of ease. and they do not understand what they are doing. Maybe what they do today is going to reflect on them maybe sometime later, and they wouldn't be in a position to do anything about it, because at the point of time they are not really aware of how to handle this whole thing. A lot of times I would also say even parents need to be really aware of these things happening in the world. I mean, we cannot close our eyes to this. If we are using the cyberspace, we might as well be in the entire world about it, world, figuring out what happens.
So that brings back to the question when you said that the kids of these days, like 3 4 years, have been given mobiles either to pacify the tantrums. Is one of the topics that we've already had. You know, the usage of digital devices by the kids. So, is there a mechanism or is there a challenge with the kids that they actually don't see the tangible? It's an intangible line wherein you are stalking or we are just looking for information, right? Why? Where can that be instigated? Because one of the things is. I want to look at some stars. I go through their profile. I talk about it. I kind of have that fan followership across. I'm not just talking about India. Even the teenage kids nowadays are able to choose. Even the kids, the kindergarten kids are able to choose between my fan following and that is acceptable because I understand where they are going, what they are doing. But that thin line vanishes when it becomes hurtful for somebody. So does it really make sense for me to ask this question on where do we draw a line with the kids? Because allowing them to be a fan follower is one. And does it replicate on the digital space when they want something, they want something? So the current nature is so tricky. How difficult will that be going forward? Because we are on the catch up game. Like you said, we're on a catch up game. But how difficult is it going to be for us to diversify the two?
It is only as difficult as we make it to be. Concerted efforts should not make it really very difficult. But yes, if we ignore something, then it's going to be really very difficult. So, who is responsible? If a child is targeted, who's responsible? We as adults are responsible. So, we as educators are responsible. We as parents are responsible. We as a society are responsible. We as the lawmakers are responsible. We as the governing body are responsible. We all who are older and can understand and make out that this is where the susceptibility is and this is the space where they need to be protected. We are responsible. If we do not take our responsibility, then then I need somebody to answer who's to take the blame.
Correct. Because one of the things that I kind of look at it is I follow a fan follower. I become a fan follower from the early ages of it. And that kind of torpedoes into the fact that, okay, I can follow somebody. He's my idol. He or she is my idol. And I don't have a problem in that. And then comes a story of somebody not liking whatever I do. And it escalates it very quickly that it is very difficult for a common person to understand whether what I'm doing is good, bad. I'm not sure which world I would be in, unfortunately. And given that scenario, the major impact that was done is to the adolescents kid. And is it true that it's only the adolescents who are kind of impacted much more than the other units, maybe toddlers or kindergartens or towards the working employee corporate world? Is it true that it's only adolescents who take much more seriously on cyber stalking activity?
I wouldn't say they take it more seriously. It is just that they are more exposed knowingly. They are a little less adapted or able to handle it. Now, when it comes to very young toddlers, one thing is they definitely don't know what's happening. So they are not, in a sense, responsible for whatever happens. So it would be probably somebody who's an older person who's supposed to take care of these things. When it comes to teenagers, the reason why we say this is the most susceptible group is because this is the group that understands to a certain extent what they want and yet does not understand the dangers lurking behind it. The older generation, if we are talking about corporates or people who are already working or a little older group, their ability to figure out what is happening is a little faster because they've gone through a little phase of their life where they have been exposed to the world. The teens are the age when they are stepping into that world, not really very sure how to navigate it, and yet it's like a shiny coin. They all want it. They don't know whether it's genuinely a worthwhile coin or not. Now, that is the most susceptible phase of your life, which needs to be protected.
Given that, again, this is something that I would like to take it up as my next point as well. Just that thought process and keeping the framework there, saying that how and what are the effects of having an adolescent teen or a teenage at home and having to undergo such certain activities on cyberbullying and cyber activities and cyber stalking and ending up in some other dark web and a deep web or a deep fake incidents. This is something that I would actually take up as a next topic, and I look forward for the next, and I can't wait for the number of questions I have for the next session.
That would be my pleasure too. Definitely, we would like to at least create awareness through our program and hope that people watch these programs and are a little more alert to these sort of incidents happening.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. And look forward for the next Monday as well.
Thank you. Looking forward to Cyber Mondays again.